welcome to the Acumatica Payroll demonstration. My name is Denise Johnson, and I'm the Acumatica Payroll Product Manager. In today's session, we're going to learn all about the current features of Acumatica Payroll. We'll look at the payroll structure, and we'll talk about availability at the end of the session. A native payroll system must have certain features to easily operate, save you time, and create the ease of payment to your employee, all the way to your project for proper job costing, and to general ledger for accurate account balances for your company. Acumatica Payroll provides this and so much more. The features listed here help you easily enter in time from any device with simple, high flexible setups and workflows. Along with the native payroll features, we've added several features specifically for industries such as construction. We've added in multiple ways to enter in time. We've included union setup, certified and prevailing wage. Along with that comes with the pay rate retrievals for union and certified, workers' compensation for multiple states, the ability to enter in time and labor rates for multiple projects and multiple locations per time card. We've also added in the ability to enter in overtime rules on a daily or weekly, by state, by project, or by union. Along with payroll always comes payroll taxes. And with payroll taxes, we've made it easy to use by using our tax engine. Our tax engine is provided along with the payroll module. Users will have little interaction with it after you initially set up, unless the government decides we need more taxes. It's continuously updated on the Acumatica hosted web tax service, and you don't have to perform updates or downloads. Along with those taxes always comes the need for tax forms. We'll be using Atrix as our integrated tax forms. This is their cloud versions of forms where e-filing is available. There's no downloads and no updates. It's automatically updated to help you save time. With that, let me jump in straight into Acumatica to show you the current desktop. Here is Acumatica's desktop in the center here. We'll talk about transactions, we'll go through our profiles, look through the processes, go through inquiries and reports, and take a look at our preferences. I'm actually going to start out on the employee payroll settings. Highlight here, and I'm going to pick on Max for our demonstration today. And Max's information comes up. You can see that we have his address, tax, employment information, and then general information based upon his class. Well, some of this information pulls in from the actual employee record, a little bit different than our employee payroll setting record. I'm going to go there now to take a look. Employees are actually set up in Acumatica as users of the system. They also can be AP vendors, AR customers, and of course, they can be payroll employees as well. In Acumatica, you set up your employees. You can see that some of the same information we saw in payroll is over here as well. This is our general information. We can keep track of employment history as they change roles. We can see their financial settings. These are for AP and accounts receivable. And then also we can keep track of custom fields or attributes that we may not have a field for. We can look at their activities and keep a log of any notes or chats or escalations. We can also see any mailings we've done to the employees. We can see the company tree that they're part of. We can also set up assignment and approval maps, and this comes into hand in payroll in certain cases as approving time. Let's say our employees are entering in time via our Acumatica app. They enter in the time, it goes to the time module, and you could have a foreman or a project manager approve that time, and then it could be pushed to the payroll administrator to review and process the records. And this is how we would set up our assignment and approval mappings. You can see the user information on how they set up and any role that they're part of. Corporate credit cards. We can see any skills that you have listed. Service areas. Any licenses. And any labor item overrides as well in the system. Now that's just the employee. So I'm going to go back to the employee payroll settings and show you what we have listed there. In payroll, we have the information that we've pulled from the employee for their address. And the reason we do this is for their tax information. You can see right below this is their tax location information and a big long number. This number is retrieved based upon the address that's listed above. I can go ahead, I've pressed the button to get the tax codes. It's brought in the tax information for me automatically based upon the employee's address and work location. I can click on the View Tax List and I can see all the taxes that are available for this employee. I'm going to go ahead and minimize my menu just a little bit over here. There we go, a little bit more screen room. All right, so we've seen all the taxes that come in for that employee. That's based upon their address. We can also see their employee information down below as hire date and termination date. And on the right-hand side, underneath general information, we have the ability to set up class default information. Now, this information is based upon this class that's set up here. I have two in my system, salary or executive. And we can use all the default information that is brought in by this class. So every time that I set up a new employee, I can tell them whether they are in the salaried or maybe the executive or field class, and it would automatically pre-fill in all of these defaults for me. If I need to change one, that's easy enough. I can go ahead and just select the box, clear that checkbox, and then enter in and select the correct information. Right here, I can say that he normally works on Union 123. The other information in the system is based upon what's being pulled for the taxes. So we're going to go down these tabs, and as I go down these tabs, I'll bring up the corresponding setup screens. These are my tax settings. This is similar to the attributes tab that you normally see in the employee, but all of these information, these settings, these attributes, are specifically to set up the employee's taxes so that you can go ahead and produce their W-2s, put the information from their W-4 in there, and then also be able to report out if you have to report out for ACA, the Affordable Health Care Act. This is the taxes that were pulled in based upon the address information for the employee. And our next tab is compensation. Compensation is what we call earning type codes within our system. Let me go ahead and bring up the earning types code screen so we can take a look at that now. I'm going to go back to the employee payroll settings while that's coming up, and we'll take a look at these compensations. You can see I have 3 regular type earning codes. Reason I have that is you can see is that their pay rate has greatly increased each time, and you can see my history that's gone as well with start and end dates. I have a daily work charge where I can go ahead and put in that type of earning and have that waiting on my employee with the exact rate per day. This would be similar to piece rate work if your company does this. So let's go back to the earning types code. So I'm going to pick on regular. I'm going to go ahead and open up the regular screen. Here we go, regular hours. We have a description that you can fill in. We have an earning type category that you must select of either salary, overtime, piecework, amount-based, or time off. If you are doing overtime, you would actually select overtime. And when you do that, you can change your multiplier to either 1, 1.5, 2, depending on whether it's overtime, double time, premium, or whatever overtime that your company does. You would select our wage type of regular, supplemental, or tips. And you have a reporting type that you would enter in as well within the system. This tells the system which box on the W-2 that the information goes in. You can also have the ability to customize the taxes. Now this tells the system, or in this case I'm saying per tax engine, which means I'm letting the tax engine determine what taxes that this earning type code is subject to. Now in Acumatica we try to get as much information in the system as possible so you don't have to do as much work, but we also allow you to customize as well. So if I click my drop down list here, I can say I want to let the tax engine do it, or if I find maybe in some case where the tax engine is not doing it, pulling in the correct taxes that my tax advisor has told me, I can modify this. I can say I want it to be subject to all taxes, no taxes, all but the list below, or none but the list below. When I select one of these, you can see the plus sign becomes available, and I can add in a row, and I can tell the system which taxes specifically do I want this earning type code to be subject to. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clear that so we don't mess up my regular hours earning type. I can also set up an earning type that is per project information as well. Our checkboxes on the right-hand side tells me if the earning type code is active or not, whether it contributes to workers' compensation, or I'm allowed to accrue time off on the earning type code. I can also, depending on my GL hierarchy setup in payroll preferences, tell the system which accounts that GL should be used. Perfect. Let's take a look at another earning type. Let's go ahead and bring up overtime. Oh, that's okay. We don't want to save the changes. This is my earning type for overtime. You can tell the category has changed to overtime. My multiplier, I have entered in 1.5. It's based upon regular hours. It's a regular wage type, normal, per tax engine. And then in here, if I changed it, I could put in the subject to taxes and my general ledger accounts. Let's take a look at a different one. I'd like to go ahead, let's bring up piecework. Piecework information is listed here. This is my earning type category. It's regular, normal, and per tax engine. And then also have the ability to do subject to taxes and my general ledger accounts. And then one last one that we can set up is, let's go ahead and pick on per diem. Per diem's a good one. You would also set up a miscellaneous or maybe even a bonus on amount based, because what would happen is when you go ahead and enter in time, it would skip the rate and the hours and go straight to the amount column so you can enter in the amount. Right? So we can go ahead and tell the system as well all of our checkboxes on the right hand side. So that's a little bit about the earning type codes. I'll go ahead and close out, go back to my employee. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the deductions and the benefit codes. So similar screen, we have a split rate of even or a pro, or I can put in a maximum percent of net pay for all garnishments. And then down below, I can enter in all of the deductions and the benefits for this employee. So as you can tell, I've got 401k in there several times. Well, that's okay. That just means that the employee has made changes, and I've kept track of those changes by just entering in another line and putting in the different amounts that the employee wishes to do. So let me go ahead and open up deductions and benefit codes, and we can take a look at them. I'm going to go ahead and pick on 401k since that was the first one that my employee had. Double click on it. Here in deductions and benefit codes, you can tell we only have one code. The great thing about it is I can tell them whether it's an employee code, a employer contribution, or both. So I can use the same code for both the employer and the employee side. I can also tell the system whether or not I can send the liabilities. I have a vendor. So what this allows me to do, I'll kind of go back out and show you this. This is kind of a cool feature. In payroll, if I set up vendors for my payroll liabilities, I can create payroll liability bills directly to accounts payable. It'll create the invoices for me. So once I've released payroll, it'll recognize those liabilities, and then I can tell payroll send them over to accounts payable as an invoice. So you don't have to go ahead and go into accounts payable and bring up that information and create the invoice on your own. You can make payroll do it for you. And it's simple just by entering in the vendor and then telling the system to create the liabilities. The description you want, you can pick what type of description you want on the invoice that you create from payroll. Same checkbox as over here, whether or not it's active, whether or not it's a garnishment, if it affects the tax calculation, which usually 401k and cafeteria 125 plans are pre-taxed. Health plans are ACA applicable, right? Because we want that to show up on our ACA reports. And then also whether or not it's workers' compensation. Because I've selected both, you see I have a tab for both the employer side and the employer side. So on the employee side, I can do a fixed amount, percentage of growth, percent of net, and amount per hour as well. I can go ahead and do the same thing on the employee side, employer side right there. I can set a percentage. I can also set the maximum frequency and a max amount, and then tell the system which box of the W-2 it needs to go into. Same setting that we saw on the earning type codes, I can let the tax engine do the work for me, or I can make changes if I need to. I also tell the system what type of benefit type it is, so it helps the tax engine determine how it's subject to taxes. And then last but not least, you always have the GL accounts. So in my payroll preferences, I've told them that I want to retrieve by the deduction and benefit code, so all of my GL accounts are listed here. Let's take a look at another deduction real quick before we leave. Let's go ahead and bring up health insurance. I'll say okay, don't want to change anything. This is also another employee and employer. Here's my vendor, right? It's active, it affects the tax calculation, probably should be ACA applicable. There we go. And when I do that, did you notice that a new tab opened up for me? In there, I can go ahead and put in my minimum contribution and then put in my coverage type as well that I need for ACA applicable information for whether or not you're a 1094 or 1095, if you're an ALE or not. Same thing, tax settings are listed here. Notice it's a health savings account, or I can go into employee side and put the information, employer, and then of course my general ledger accounts. I'm gonna go ahead and show you one more while we're here. Let's go ahead and pick on workers' compensation. I'm gonna say okay to no changes. Here I have a benefit. You can tell it's employer only, so I only have one tab. But it's also something different because it's workers' compensation. I've put in my vendor information. This is my employer contribution. Here are my workers' compensation codes. So all I would have to do is enter in my rates, and then I can put in my general ledger accounts that I need for this benefit to go to as well. Let's go back. I'll close out of the deductions and benefits, and I'll go back to the employee, and we can see what it looks like on the employee. Once again, I can mark a deduction or benefit active or not active. If you look at these four columns, these are the employee side. These four columns are the employer side, the contribution side. I can tell the system should pre-fill whether or not it's a garnishment or not. I can also sequence them. So if I have an employee that does have some garnishments, I can go in there and sequence these so I can tell the system exactly which ones need to come out. I can also put in start and end dates. I think that's really helpful when you have new employees starting. You can go ahead and enter in all their deductions and benefits and then tell the system exactly when to go ahead and start calculating. Maybe you don't start their 401k until after 90 days. Well, you can go ahead and put that information in and then just set the start date for you, and you don't have to come back in and remember this information. Okay. On the paid time off tab for the employee, we can set up PTO banks. In PTO banks, you can go ahead and you can have as many as you want, or you can just have one. So you can even add in another one if you wanted to keep track of sick time as well. You can set up PTO banks for each one of holiday, vacation, or sick. You can put in the accrual rate, a limit. You can put in whether or not you allow carryover. So here you can see I allow a partial carryover of only 40 hours. I've front loaded their information with 40 hours for holiday and 120 for vacation. And you can see how much he's accrued in his bank and if they've used any as well in their bank. All of this information shows up on their pay stub too. So when the employees look at their pay stub, they can tell how much vacation they have or what they've accrued and used and don't have to bother you, the payroll administrator. Right? You can also set up this information per the employee class. So just like we did on the general information, you had all of these check boxes right here based upon the employee class. You can do the same for the PTO bank. So as you add new employees, you don't have to keep entering the same information over and over again, or remember to enter the information over and over again. On the employee, you have the ability to do payment settings for checks and Fedwire. Fedwire is direct deposit. So you can print the check out for the employee or set them up for a direct deposit. You can have as many accounts as you want, checking or saving here. Just the last account will always get remainder. And then last but not least is GL accounts. Mine are all blank because in my payroll preferences, I've told the system I want to retrieve the GL accounts from the deductions and the benefits and the taxes and the earning codes. But you do have the ability to point the system to every employee if you do wish to keep track of the earning counts here. Right? That is all about the employee and most of the settings that you have to set up in the system. I'm going to go back to the payroll menu and we're going to cover the other ones that we didn't get a chance to see. Now, you heard me talk about payroll preferences all the time. Payroll preferences is one of the things that you go into when you're first setting up the system. Here's all those posting and retention settings I kept mentioning. I've told the system to go to the earning type. Depending on the structure of your GL, you can also tell the sub-accounts to go to a branch, employee, labor item, pay group, or earning type. So you have some ways to customize on how the GL account is retrieved from within the system. So earnings, you can do your deductions, your benefit expense, benefit liability, tax expense, tax liability. All of the information is listed here underneath the posting and retention settings. You can tell the system how to number your batches and your transactions. What this helps with is when you are doing reconciliation, you can easily tell that that's from payroll. So if I see a PY trans number, I can honestly see that, oh, that's from payroll. And you can see that across the system within every one of your modules. I can put in my pay rate decimal places and then tell the system which hours, which earning types to use for regular hours, earning holiday for quick pays, and then if I'm using the CRM system, I can put in my commission type as well. If you're doing piecework, just a simple checkbox to tell the system that you're allowed to do piecework, and that'll show up in your earning type codes as well. I like to go ahead and keep this checkbox selected right at the very beginning when you're first starting, and that just allows that the paycheck stays on hold until you clear the whole checkbox. Last but not least, you've got a few other checkboxes over here on the right-hand side that you would do when you first set up. The other pieces of payroll settings is telling the system to show your attributes. You're able to set defaults for your tax attributes within the system, just based upon the states that you have taxes within. And you also can modify the transaction date exceptions. Transaction date in our system is the check date. So you want to make sure that your check date doesn't fall on a banking holiday, which we've entered in the next 10 years of banking holidays. You can modify these if you need to or add new ones. And you can also tell the system that you don't want the transaction date to be on a weekend. So that way you don't, when you go ahead and enter in your payroll batches, you don't automatically create a check. I'd say not automatically or accidentally create a check date that's on the weekend or on a banking holiday where it can't be processed. The other pieces to show you are the overtime rules. Let's go ahead and go into the overtime rules screen. I have a few set up in the system. I have a daily 8. Any hours over 8 will automatically go to overtime. I have another one set up for premium. Any hours over 10 goes to premium. Saturday rate goes to automatically overtime and Sunday. So if I set up a new one, let me show you down the drop down list. So here, if I set up a test one, we'll just be original and set up test. I can tell the system what the dispersing earning type is. I can tell the system whether it's a daily or a weekly. If I pick daily, then I'm allowed to actually pick a day of the week. So not only Sunday or Saturday, but if there's a special day in the week that they automatically get a different overtime rule on, you can do that as well. I can put in my threshold so the system knows once I reach it, then it's automatically that earning type. And I can go ahead and put in a rule by state, by union, or by project. So there's several different options in here that you can create overtime rules. The other pieces are unions. Let me go ahead and go into unions and show you what unions look like. And I know not everybody is a union shop. but you can use these screens for different pay rate retrievals as well. I have a union set up in the system. It's also set up as a vendor. So when I have to pay my union dues or anything else after that, then it's automatically in the system for me. I have labor items, my classifications that are set up, along with the pay rates and the effective dates. So when I get new rates from the union, I can go ahead and I can hit my plus sign and I can enter in my new rates and put in the new effective date and the system will take over. I can also put in the deductions and benefit packages for my unions as well. Now the certified project screen looks very similar on there. Let me go ahead and bring up, I have one project that I have marked as certified. And here I have all my labor items, my classifications, along with the rates and the effective dates, so very similar to unions. Here's my deductions and benefit packages per that contract. And then one other feature that usually sometimes comes along with the certified contract that you receive is you're sometimes requested to pay a cash fringe. Now, this came along with the Davis-Bacon Act a long time ago when employers normally didn't pay health care coverage. Health plans weren't a thing when Davis-Bacon was originally done. So what the governmental entities decided is that the employees should get paid money so they could go buy their own health care. So it was called a cash fringe payout. There's several different terms for it, but usually it's called like a fringe benefit. And it's not in addition to their pay rate, it's on top of it. It's a pay that they receive that they're supposed to go take and buy health insurance for. So nowadays, most employers provide health care coverage for their employees, so they're able to reduce that rate. So let's take our apprentice 80%. He's going to earn $18 per hour, but on top of that, he should receive $10 an hour in fringe benefits. If he doesn't, then we would take this $10 per his hour a number of hours on his paycheck, and he would receive this and as an addition to his paycheck. If you do provide benefits, all that you would have to do on the right-hand side is go ahead and list those benefits the ones that you were able to per your contract, and tell the system these are the benefits that should reduce the rate. And when the paycheck is calculated, it'll go through and actually calculate it. If it's $10 or more, no fringe benefit will come in. If it's less than $10 an hour, then you'll see the amount added to the employee's paycheck. So no formulas, you just have to tell the system exactly which benefits should come in for the employee to offset that fringe rate benefit. All right, we've talked a little bit. Then one last place that kind of comes into play for the tax engine. So I talked a little bit about the tax engine on the employee, but this is where we set up the information for our company, and it's called our work location, which helps drive the taxes as well. I pulled up our Seattle office. This is our exact address itself. I've told the system to go get the tax codes, and when it did, it's going to bring me back the list of the tax codes that belong to that work location. So, along with the employees' taxes based upon their address, it looks at this work location and brings in the taxes as well. So, when the employee's check is calculated, the tax engine behind the scenes knows that all the reciprocity between states, between localities, between everyone else, and it'll bring in the proper taxes based upon where the employee lives and where the employee is working. And that's how the work location helps on the employee payroll settings itself. We'll go over process payroll in just a second. We talked a little bit about create liabilities. Let me go ahead and open up that screen for you. This is where I'm going to go ahead and just pick on one vendor, so kind of narrow down the list down at the bottom of my demo data. But if we look at the vendor here, we have 1114 for Max Baker for 401k, and then that is the benefit part, so that's the employer part. And then down here we have a deduction, so this is the employee part. So both of these guys came in, need to be paid to the Bank of America. I can go ahead and put in the bill date and then tell the system the single line per invoice, and then create zero amounts as well. So when I go ahead and process these two, if I select those two, it'll automatically create an invoice in accounts payable totaling $277.20 to the Bank of America and list all of this information on it for me. So that's when I was talking about being able to create all of those payroll liabilities into accounts payable invoices for you, which is a little pretty quick click of the trick, and you don't have to go and create the invoices yourself. Next screen is government reporting. This is our Atrix tax reports. I can show only the federal forms. Here's all the forms that are listed. If you live in a specific state, we can go ahead and type in, let's pick on California. Here are all the California reports as well. So you have the certified payroll report in here. Let's pick on a different state. Let's see. I can pick on, let's pick on Oregon. There we go. All of Oregon's reports are listed here. Again, here's the Oregon certified report on all the quarterly and the payment tax coupons. And then one last state, let's go ahead and pick on Texas. And in Texas, we have a quarterly, we have a DOL report, and then a new hire report. So every state is listed in here. And if I clear that box, that list of mine's going to get way bigger. I can scroll through here as I talk. But every single state is listed in here when it's ready for you and when you start working in different states, or if you do work in multiple states. So along with the tax engine, you have your government reporting ready and waiting for you whenever you cross the state lines and start doing work in different states. You don't have to do anything different. All the information is waiting for you when you're ready to proceed. So that's government reports. We've talked about pretty much, we have a whole bunch of reports in the system as well for you to use for timekeeping, and we're adding more and more to that list every single day. So now let's take a second and we're going to talk about time entry. So for time entry within the payroll system, you have two ways to get time into the system itself. Now you can use the time module, no problem with that, and I'll show you a cool way that payroll will recognize that information from the time module. So if you're entering in time already to the time module, or we'll be using a ISV to collect your time card information, then payroll can pick that up. We're going to enter in a couple of things. Now, we've talked about payroll batches, and let me go ahead and bring in payroll batches so we can kind of talk about them just a little bit. So when we talk about payroll batches, we're talking about entering in a batch of checks, and we do that by setting up pay groups within the system. Now here in my system, I have pay groups. I can go ahead, you can set up any type of pay group you wish. You can see some of my examples here. I've used admin and field. You can do salary and hourly. You can go back and do monthly, quarterly, or weekly. You can even do it by foreman or project manager. Whatever it would do to help to batch time together and review it, or maybe even enter it in the information. If you don't have that many employees, probably not that big of a deal. But when you start getting up into, more than 20 or 25 employees at a time, that gets to be a lot to look at. So you have the ability to do your pay groups. And in pay groups, this is also another spot where you can tell the system to come in and retrieve the GL accounts as well. So back to payroll menu on the side, I'm going to go into payroll batches. So in payroll batches, I have the ability to select what type of pay run I'm going to do, what payroll type. I can do regular or special. So the reason why we have special is maybe you're going to do a bonus and you're going to use the same period started end dates. And that's the reason why you would enter in special. I'm going to select my pay group of weekly. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick on my pay period. Let's see what that brings up. Nope. Let's go ahead and select my pay group here. And we can go ahead and put in a test. You can do pay period, um, whatever your pay period is from 11/1 to 11/7. Any type of information that'll help you, because this is the description that goes over into the projects itself. So go ahead, and what this allows me to do is I can go ahead and click on add employees, and it brings up the employees that are part of this weekly pay group. I want to show you something else before I click there. You can also, if by chance you're doing a payroll type of special, maybe sometimes the special checks that you're doing don't always bring in all of the same deductions and benefits should be taken out. So you have the chance to go ahead and clear these check boxes if you don't want specific deductions and benefits to come out of this payroll batch. You can do the same thing for overtime rules. The system will bring in all the overtime rules, and if you don't want them to be applicable to this payroll batch, you can go ahead and clear that checkbox. Back to document details. If I go ahead and click on add employees, both the employees that belong to that group are listed there. I can put in my class, put in my employee type, and I have 3 checkbox. I can go ahead and pre-populate for quick pays. If I wanted to do a quick pay for a bunch of maybe my admin or my salary employees, I can select this box, which tells the system to go over to the time module and bring in any time that is between these days listed here by start and my end date. So if you are entering in time over there or have an ISV that's sending time over there, you can go ahead and tell payroll to bring it on over. Also, if you have CRM, you can tell payroll to bring over those sales commission. I'm going to go ahead and add and close. What this does, it brings in the information for those 2 employees and everything that I selected that it could find. If I want to make changes, all I have to do is click on earning details and I can make changes. I could add in a project or change the project that was there. You can tell it's got a certified job. You can put in your cost code. Here, let's go ahead and fill that out. It is a certified job. My union local, if I need to, I can actually change the labor item, watch the rate. As I make my change, the system will compare the information and always try to pull the highest based upon the information you have entered in that line of time. So all that information is listed here. Once I'm done with this employee, I can close out, and if I need to make changes or additions to Layla, I would go ahead and click on earning details. Now this is great, and this is how I would normally enter in my time or bring in time for batches of employees, but I'm going to go ahead and I am going to go ahead and say, there we go, let's save it. Let's take it off a hold. Let's go ahead and release it. And when I go ahead and release it, then I can do another batch. Once I've done with all of my batches, I can go back to my payroll menu and I can process all of my payroll documents at once. So I can do all my batches separately and break my employees down into pay groups and payroll batches. But when I come to calculate, I can calculate everybody all together. So you can see my choices. I can calculate them, and then I can release them after I've printed them. I'm going to go ahead and stop in the payroll batch mode, and what I'm going to do is actually enter in a paycheck and adjustment. And this is where I would come to enter in one check at a time. Maybe I had a terminated employee and I needed to move their information and print the check or generate the direct deposit all by itself, or maybe I needed to make an adjustment or a correction. This is where I would come to do that. Let's go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to make sure I'm in regular type. So I have 4 options: regular, special, adjustment, or void check. I'm going to do regular. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my pay group again. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and select my pay period to run my check in. So I'm going to go ahead and select, oops, I went just too far. Let's go ahead and do this one. And I got a message saying it can't be used for processing. So the system is doing my validation for me and saying, hey, that period's not open. You can't go ahead and post to there. So let me back up just a little bit and enter information. I think I can get one in there. There we go. All right, so I have a pay period. I have my posting period is listed. Let me go ahead and bring my employees up. Remember, Max and Layla are in this weekly pay group, so those are the only two that I'm going to see. Max's information pre-fills in for me, and then I can go ahead and enter in a description as well. Let's go ahead and do a pay period. 53259. There we go. And then I can go ahead and I can enter in information that I want to see in here for Max. So I'm just going to enter in line of time, bring in my codes. I'm going to I'm going to trigger some overtime hours. Hit tab. There we go. See my pay rate. There's my information. I can fill in a project if I need to. Certified job. I can put in my cost code. If you belong to a union, I can put that information in, and I can change my labor item or the workman's comp code as well. As you can see, I'm going to delete that line. I have overtime rules that are applicable. I can enter that information in, and if there's one I need to clear out, I can go ahead and do that. His deductions are at 0. These are all of his deductions. These are all of his taxes. They're at 0. All right. So if I go back to my earning details, I'm going to go up to actions. And the reason why I came here is because I can go ahead and calculate, I can print, and I can release, and I can void the check all in one spot. So I'm going to go ahead and click on calculate. From there, we can go ahead and print the check. And when we print the check, the pay stub will look similar to this. This is a direct deposit. You can see the non-negotiable information. This is what the pay stub looks like. You can have all of the earning information. Here's all of our pay period information. Gross pay, deductions and taxes, and then benefits, deductions. Here's our tax information. And then down below we'll have our PTO banks and then any notes and information that you wish to have for the employee. Let me go ahead and close out on the pay stubs themselves. We'll go back to payroll, and we have gone through everything for the payroll demonstration. Let me head back to my PowerPoint and we'll finish up and cover the last bits of information that we have for today. So that is our features demo. And when Acumatica Payroll is available, it is available to purchase now. We have customers live and running on it. It is officially available in the 2020 R1 release. Canadian Acumatica Payroll will be available in 2021 R1. And if you'd like more information, you can contact your partner. And as you're going through payroll and you see that you may have wanted some enhancements, maybe there's something in there that would be cool to have, you can go ahead, and this is for any application in Acumatica, not just payroll. You can go to feedback.acumatica.com and you can select the product. In our case, it'd be payroll, but any product you can submit a new idea or look through the ideas there, add in notes or add in your vote. Once again, just thank you for taking your time to view a demo of Acumatica Payroll. If you have any questions, please contact me. Thanks and have a great day.